You don't have to be a millionaire to have a good life. You just have to, I think, freedom. I would take over money any day.
With you, having freedom way more important than money.
Yeah.
But Gary Vee says it all the time. He's got friends, right, that are like billionaires and they're just miserable all the time. He's got friends that make like $50K a year.
Yep.
Still spend time with their families and do the things that make them happy and, just make them enjoy life. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the AbadAss Life podcast. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Andres Abad. I'm your host. This channel is all about bringing you people who are experts or becoming experts in their field so they can give you the tips and tricks and hacks that you need to start building your own badass life. Today, we have someone that it's a good friend of mine, and he is definitely becoming an expert at what he does. Thank you so much for being here today, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So before we go into your area of genius and, all these great things that you've been doing, just tell us a little bit more about yourself, where do you come from, what's your background, what ended up bringing you here to where you are today? Because I know that you had a different business before, right?
Yeah, actually, I have quite a few businesses. Our main one is the video game company. We were in the Paddock Mall. We started actually in the market of Marion. I don't know if you're familiar with the flea market, but I used to mow lawns originally, and then from there, I built up enough money to get it was actually down the street on Silver Springs Boulevard, got a little shop, and that led to our store in the Paddock Mall. And the company still exists, but we saw the online coming, and that's where we went with it.
And you just went remote and digital?
Yeah, back in 2007, the mall just kept increasing prices. We go to them and go, hey guys, malls are kind of fading out. You guys want to work a deal? And they said, no, absolutely not. And we said, okay, we're out. And from there, that business just went all online.
Gotcha. So what made you go into the video game business?
I'm a big video game fan. So I'm a collector even to this day. I'm always, scouting out. I like the Neo Geo. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
It was a classic arcade machine. It had 4 games on one. And the home system is actually the Saudi Arabian community loves this machine. And right now, did you see the boxing that was on the Fatal Fury series? That was like 2 weeks ago, and that was Neo Geo. That was the labeling of SNK, but a lot of people didn't even notice it.
Yeah, no, I did see it. I didn't notice it.
Yeah, it was with the Garcia fight and everything like that, and that's all Neo Geo. Fatal Fury is one of their big, companies or not their game name titles. That's one of their big ones.
Gotcha. So you went into the video game, you figured out and you're gonna make it a business since I like it so much, and that's where it all started.
Yeah, actually, now that I think of it, even my buddy, did you ever meet Hiroki in Las Vegas?
I think so.
Yeah, he was my friend in Clearwater, and he was the beginning of the idea for me. I ran it out of my house, an arcade out of my house, and you had to have a membership card to come in. The idea was, hey, none of us can afford these games. They were $200 back in 92 or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was, this is big money. I said, well, we can't afford them, but we could all together afford them. So I charged a membership, and then we
That's
had them at my house.
creative.
Yeah.
That's
and
pretty
so
cool.
it's over 30 years later. He still got the membership card and the coin and everything that we created. I created as a kid. I was probably 12 years old at the time. So
that's awesome.
It's pretty cool. It's cool that he kept it. I'm like, who keeps it? He had it right in his wallet. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool, man. But so we're good friends still to this day. But as a fan of video games, it can't kind of, how it is. When you love something, it's easy to do it as a business.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah,
that's one of the main things that we try to convey as a message here in the podcast. Is like, living your own badass life doesn't mean like doing what everybody else thinks is badass. It's like none of that stuff. It's just truly like focusing on what you like, what makes you tick, and going after that, right? And putting like 110% effort into it. Because at the end of the day, whether it's successful or not, like if you just enjoy the ride, like you're going to look back and you're going to say, okay, I spent 30 years of my life enjoying what I did. And like, that's the biggest win that you can have.
Yeah, actually, the last job I worked at was at Bennigan's, actually. And I was 17 at the time. And I always said at the same time, when I was doing the video game business, I didn't need to be a millionaire. I just needed to not work at Bennigan's. I mean, I had to be able to freedom to travel and have fun. You have to have enough money.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be a millionaire to have a good life. You just have to have freedom. I think freedom, I would take over money any day. At least that's what I've seen. And my friends that have that, they're happy. So I don't think the money is everything, but it's a nice little bonus.
It's a tool, right? But no, I agree with you. Having freedom is like way more important than money. That Gary Vee says it all the time. He's got friends, right, that are like billionaires and they're just miserable all the time. He's got friends that make like $50K a year who like can scrape together a vacation with their family, but they have the time to coach their son's soccer leagues and they have the time to go out, and maybe there's not like extravagant vacations or whatever, but still spend time with their families and do the things that make them happy and just make them enjoy life. So 1,000% agree on that. So what ended up like, how was the transgression? That's not the word that I was looking for. What was the transformation between like first the loans, right, that made you have enough money to create the video games, and then at what point did you decide that you want to get into like the stock market?
Well, my dad always was, he's a business guy as well, but he also had investments. Back when E-Trade was in the beginning, he had that. So he always talked to that stuff to me. As far as more current day, it's changed a lot. Now you got a phone and you could really do a lot of different kind of trading. Before, it's kind of basic. You don't trade like you do these days. As far as like the video game stuff and investing, one of the biggest things I ever did was I borrowed $13,000 from my dad, and GameStop was buying out a local company called Rhino Video Games, and so we went around. I took that loan. We went around and we bought all their retro stuff through all of Florida. Just drove around. It was one of our most fun trips we ever had. We just had a whole vehicle with, if you can imagine, just from floor, ceiling, trunk, everything filled with video games. And to this day, I've been selling that for, I think this was probably 2013. I've been selling it for 12 years. And there's none of it gone, because we had so much.
Yeah, it
was a heck of an investment, obviously. And what was weird is, and I knew this was coming because I remember long ago thinking video games would be a very strong investment because anything that people love, that they connect to their childhood and gets limited, because it goes up in price.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. You got PlayStation 1 games that are $300, $400 now, and we bought them for $2. So,
a return.
Yeah. So even the most common game, maybe we bought for $0.25, we're getting $6. So when you're talking on your money, that's good money.
When you have that volume too, you bought a shit ton of them.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. A lot of people in the business go, well, how can you? Everyone wants to sell retro, but how do you get it? Well, you already have it. That's how you want to have it. If you try to get it now, everybody wants the prime money for it. So we were fortunate. Thankfully, my dad actually kept that loan on his door. With interest. I paid it with interest. Now I just remember, I was like, "You gonna ever take this down?" He goes, "I'm gonna leave it for a few more days. You paid it," but he was a funny guy with that stuff.
That goes to show, I think it was like just the main principle of business, right? And it's like just supply and demand, and how scarcity creates the value, the actual value in it. Because if everybody had it, it wouldn't be valuable, right? So it's like now the least there is of something, the most valuable it becomes.
Of course, and you actually see it in video games. Generation to generation. So now you're starting to flow into PS3 and you're seeing PS3 games going up in value because it'll be a new generation of gamers that go, hey, I remember that game when I was young.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see the waves, and as I get older, I mean, it's amazing. I remember Nintendo games, nobody wanted them. It's just, hey, this is a pen. You'd have game stores that say, I never did that. But you go in the shops and go, I don't want that. And I said, well, that's a big mistake. And now everybody wants them. So it's interesting.
I know for my own experience, there was a handful of video games that I really, really enjoyed. And if I, had time or wanted to get back into it, I would pay him. I would pay
The money wouldn't matter.
a ridiculous
Yep.
amount to find that specific one. Because I remember, at least in high school, for a few years in high school, I definitely like went through my fair share of time playing video games.
Sure.
And had like all the consoles. Had back then it was like Xbox had just came out.
Okay.
And then
2001 area probably.
around that. Yeah, because I was like 10 then.
Yeah.
So I had a GameCube that I loved, the Super Smash Bros. Melee. I think it was.
Yep.
That game, I was so hooked on it. We were going to like tournaments,
Sure.
and there was like so many. Like, I love that game. Like, I think that's probably one of the only games that I will play up until now that will actually take time and sit down and be like, okay, I want to play with somebody.
Yeah.
And with my nephew, like when he was growing up, we'd play a ton of like Mario Kart. And
all still favorites to this day for most people.
Yeah, and it was like Mario Kart was like super fun to play with him. And like the GameCube went into like Wii U or whatever the newer ones were, but that was one of the ones that I remember. I remember Halo. Like I loved Halo.
It's funny, the time frame you're talking about was like the prime of my business. Like the when we were in the mall, it was a hell of a time for video games. Honestly, you had Dreamcast and all these systems. It was the last little war, because now there's no war. It's just there's Nintendo, there's Microsoft, and there's Sony, and there's no one else coming in. But back then there was still a little fight. You had Sega in there, and you had the systems that were just before that. So it was a fun time in the video game world. And Halo 2, I mean, my goodness, that game that stayed on people's TVs for years and years and years. You don't see that anymore, really.
Even up until, so I graduated high school in Ecuador, and then I moved to the States, and then I got really busy. I started working a lot and all this stuff. But like I had a friend that I used to work with. We both used to do sales together. And a lot of the times we, like, throughout the week, we would just go hang out with each other and just play Halo. That's even after, like, after I stopped playing, which was pretty much during high school, I came out here to the States, and then like I would play Halo a bunch with him for a period, I don't know, probably like a year, I think. And but then, you know what, something's like weird happens with me when I play video games. And I know that I remember when I was young hearing that there was a study, I think in China, that was like video games was kind of making like people I don't know if it's epileptic was the right word, but they were getting these outbursts of like some kind of
I think you just lost in Halo. You were just mad.
No, I used to be pretty good. But no, it's weird because like when I play, for example, like Call of Duty, especially once I got older, right? Yeah. I'll play Call of Duty, and it doesn't make me like dizzy, but there's like a weird feeling. It's like, I don't know. I've never had a seizure or anything like that, so I wouldn't have a frame of reference to know what it feels like, or like an epileptic attack. But it just feels weird. Kind of like I think make me a little like funky feeling.
I think it's the 3D in the video games that kind of get your eyes a little bit weird. Like, because it started with me. I noticed that back in GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64. It's probably before you were playing, but it was kind of a little bit blurry. So, when you're looking at video games, they're not always crystal clear, especially back then. So it's a little bit, you're looking at a picture that your eyes are kind of blurry. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I noticed it was particularly with Call of Duty or similar games, sometimes even a little bit with Halo. Yeah. But like when I played Mario Kart or Smash Bros, like I never felt any kind of way. Right. So yeah, but anyway, so you learned a lot about the stocks from your dad, and then like how long have you now been doing your main business, which is Follow My Predictions?
We started in 2022, so we're going in a few years now. I would say it's my main business as far as we're growing pretty fast, but I still consider the video game. That's my thing. That's my thing. I guess my baby, because I was 13 years old when I started that. So it's a long time in, but I guess we're closing on 3 years plus now, a little over 3 years. So.
And just for the audience to have a little bit of context, what is it that you guys do and Follow My Predictions, and what's the offer?
So you go on these different platforms like Webull, and they have little communities that talk. But
Mhm.
these communities are meant to make you lose. A lot of times it's the people shorting stocks. And so
Mhm.
they'll say, buy it, buy it now. You don't want to be in these communities. Or they'll, let's say you won and you said, hey, I won, you posted it. They go, I hate you. You're terrible. It's just hateful. I remember back in 2022, I'm like, why do people even go in these communities? And I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool to have a community where people actually want you to win? They want you to trade properly. They want you to have fun.
Yeah.
And that was the point of the community. That was when, even on the page, that's what I wrote. I haven't altered it from 2022. It was, hey, let's have fun. Let's do this together where it's actually enjoyable, not just anger and jealousy. There's a lot of jealousy in stocks. Like, oh, you won. They think that if you won, they lost, or it can be you win together. As long
Yeah.
as you're doing it smart.
Right.
So I would say that's the main goal. The main goal was to create something where you're going to enjoy it. And people wake up, they 4 a.m. You got people messaging, good
Mhm.
morning, and it's a routine, and it's cool to see.
I think it's pretty cool that you've actually gotten to accomplish just that, right? Like I joined your
Yep.
community and then I was like blown away. And I've been in plenty of other communities because of all the research and all the things that I've not specifically in stocks,
Right.
but just like in different industries. And I can honestly say that your community is super engaged. They're super friendly. They help each other. Like everyone's in there, like giving their 2 cents. So like the more advanced, traders are like giving tips and tricks and do this or do that. And there's like so much camaraderie and like it's just everybody seems to be having a great time. So I think you definitely accomplished that part of it. It was like, okay, let's have a space where people that are like minded want to go ahead and get together and just share information or do everything else, share the wins, because that's really important too, right? Like I think sharing some of those wins, whether they're big or small, it just brings that positive vibe, and it's like that. It's like, okay, we can do this.
Yeah, actually, that's a big point of the community too. Is someone might have $1 million account, someone might have $100 account, but they can interact and enjoy it together. Because
Hmm.
society kind of separates people by money and class and everything else. So this is a cool experience. It's a very different experience than the real society.
Yeah.
You don't see people with $100 account usually mingling with people with $1 million accounts, but it happens here. And both people there's no jealousy. They want each
Hmm.
other to win, which is unusual as well in society. So I think the one thing I consistently hear, whether someone comes or goes, they always say, I actually love the experience. Maybe their life changed, maybe their money situation changed, but they want to come back because they miss the friends, they miss the experience.
Yeah.
So it's really nice.
What would you say to people out there that are looking to maybe potentially start trading or start, getting in the world of stocks? Like, um, what would be the advice that you would give them, knowing now all the things that you know?
I mean, the first thing is to not go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You probably should give yourself 6 months of maybe even trading $100. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you have $10,000. You don't just jump in and spend it. You have to learn the craft. You have to learn the strategy. I've had members come in and I give my detailed description of what to do, and an hour later they didn't read it, and they're halfway in their account is in. You can't do that. So you spend the 6 months. You start to learn how you trade, and then when you can, I always say $20 a day is what you should go for, because $20 a day in trading it's possible with $100 even.
Mm-hmm.
But your risk reward is there, and then you also learn the consistency. If you can keep getting 20,
Mm-hmm.
then you double it. You can't come in going, hey, let me get $1,000 a day. You're going to lose. You're not going to succeed. So the key is changing your habits, understanding what's real life and what's, those other communities that they'll show you a Lamborghini. That's not real life. If you have $10 million, that's a Lamborghini. You get your Lamborghini, but you can't do that off of $1,000 account and then go get your Lamborghini. It's
Yeah,
just
and
not
then
going to happen.
expect to
So
win just.
it's more having some realistic expectations and then developing good habits that will work for you.
Yeah, I think it's just like in everything else, repetition is key, right? And being consistent. Because the way I look at it is like the money at first doesn't really matter. It's just like the training that you're getting.
Right.
And then if you get good enough where like you can consistently make those $20 a day, then all you have to do is just up the volume and then continue doing the same thing that you're doing, and the money will grow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But like the hard part is actually getting to consistently win, whatever it is, whether it's like $5, $10, $20, whatever the number is. But winning consistently is actually where you have to focus, and despite the amount.
But I think also, and I told this, I've seen this actually in real life. I had well, I don't want to say, but but let's just say $20 doesn't matter to somebody, right? If you were walking on the streets and you saw a $20 bill, most people will react pretty heavily to it. Now, they might throw that $20 bill away in their life, their regular life, but when it's on the ground, people react, even if they have quite a bit of money. So you want to get to the point where when you're trading stocks and you're up on a trade, that you react like you would if it were on the ground. Because sometimes I hear people go, I was only up $200. So I didn't take it. Now I'm down $200. Those are the mistakes. Those are the things mentally that you have to change. And I work on that all the time. Just private conversations where, man, I was up and I got greedy. And we have strategies to prevent that. So you're selling your shares as you go instead of just going, I want to get to this area to sell my shares. So it's just stuff like that will make a big difference in someone's trading.
Yeah, I remember when I first joined, and this was like Chinese to me, right? And one of the reasons for me, I guess my thought process is I I never got into stocks, even though it attracted me a bunch. I always wanted to be part of it, always wanted to learn. But the one thing that prevented me from it was I don't really have any say on how it goes, right? I don't have any control whether it goes up, down, sideways, or in circle. There's no influence that I have on that. So that's kind of something that stopped me from doing it. But I guess the wrong way to look at it, because a lot of things in life you just don't have any control. You just have to educate yourself enough in order to be able to make the right decisions, educated decisions that hopefully they pan out. You're not guaranteed that they're going to pan out, just like life, I'm a poker player. So that kind of gives the same thing. It's a lot of the times you make the right decisions in poker and still lose. But as long as you continue making the right decisions consistently, over time, you'll win. And so in my opinion, I went in and decided to just go in and do investments that I had a little bit more control, whether it's real estate, whether it's other areas. But now that I'm super interested in it, you showed me some of these strategies, even right at the gate, me not knowing a whole lot, I was able to make a little bit of money.
Right.
And then, I got really busy and whatnot, and you have to be consistent. So I haven't done as much, but hopefully now I'm really hoping to get back in it, and I'm waking up way earlier now.
Yeah.
So that also helps with this, right?
It does. And it's interesting because in the community, there's it's spaced out. So you got 4 a.m., there will be certain people that obviously their life allows them to be up at 4 a.m. So it will stretch out. And then I usually post maybe 9, 8 earliest, and then till around noon, you'll see stuff from me. So depending on when you wake up or when it fits best, you'll see your different favorites appearing on the stock market trading floor. So it's things like that. And the charts, you do have some control. So the one thing you want to keep in mind is you'll see the chart. The chart's there telling you buy me. That's the control part. Of course, like you said, it can go down. It doesn't have to go the way the chart says, but percentages are on your side, just like poker. If you got a great hand and you can see the flop out there, it's on your side if you know what you're playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the cool thing I think is once you do it enough, it just becomes second nature, right? For me in poker, for example, if I flop a flush draw and 2 overs with the gutter.
Right.
Now I know that I'm about like 40% ish, 40 maybe 42%. If I think like my overs are good, maybe a little bit more. But it just comes like second nature. Like you already know the numbers like spot on. Like within milliseconds, I see I see what the flop was, what the turn was. I know kind of like how my percentages are varying. You know how my equity is changing based on the board texture. So I'm assuming it's the same on stocks.
Yeah, it actually is. So this morning, I only called 3 plays on the stock market trading floor. 3 charts that I thought looked beautiful. All 3 of them, went skying up. So, and I showed you the other day, a certain chart you can look at it and go, this chart is everything's in our favor. Like you say, you don't win everything. So maybe if you lost 30, 40% of the time, who cares? As long as you win more than you lose, that's the game. And it's the same as poker. If someone's a winning poker player, they only need to win, 10% more than they lose, and they make money. So that's the other thing you got to learn is, hey, I'm not trying to win 100% of the time. A lot of people try to tell you, they try to lie to you. You can't win 100% of the time. Nobody can. No matter, there's no one on earth that can. Unless you do it Warren Buffett style and you just buy it for $1 million years and you hold it forever.
And just hold it, yeah.
In the stock market, most times that wins. Especially you pick his kind of companies, you win.
But
he's picking Coke and he's picking all the best companies. Of course, you're going to win if you hold it.
You're going to win at a much smaller rate, though, in my opinion. Like you're going to have to be really patient, and you're going to have to know that it's like going to take years and years.
It's going to take a long time. Of course, for him, he had the money, so he's going in so huge. Of course, he's making unlimited. But that's why we day trade, because we do earnings picks, but you can only make X amount of dollars because it takes time. I think it was. Dutch Brothers actually was an earning pick I had the other day, and it dropped. A lot of times there's like these fake outs. It dropped to $54, and then it went straight back up, and now it's been running. That company is a great company.
Is that the coffee company?
Yeah. It's one of those companies where I've been telling people about it for a long time. We've been calling it, I think back when it was $20-something. I think it was well over 100.
They're exploding in Texas.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Everywhere?
Yeah, everywhere. They're going to be they added 1,000 stores last year, I think. Their goal is to add 1,000 more. So, this company is growing fast. But that's the way. Like that's the one that you would do where you have your small amount of money. You're not trying to day trade that. You buy it, you sit it. And now this company, like, hopefully it turns into Starbucks. You know what I mean?
I hope so. We need some alternatives, man. Like,
looks like that's happening.
I'm all for like, hey, if you're good enough, you're gonna just choke the market and whatever. But like, you need some healthy competition for us, the consumers, to have more variety and be able to pick, right?
And so there's not $12 coffees. You know,
I agree.
That's the other part.
I agree, man. There's some people out there spending more on Starbucks than they spend on their businesses. It's crazy to watch. It's insane.
I saw like a video that described if you take that money and put it into Starbucks versus actually having the Starbucks, how much money you would have. And it's just, it was real. And it's crazy to think, if you just made your coffee at home and put that money into an investment, how much money you would have made. It's enormous.
We don't realize, man, with the nation of consumers. And
spend it.
Hopefully, now creating more content with you will start, getting people to get more educated and how to start actually putting their money, whether it's little or a lot, to work for them and to start creating the wealth that most people want,
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too, is you don't have to have a huge amount of money. To trade in stocks, you can start with $100 because the whole thing is learning. And if you put money away each check, depending on your wealth, it builds up. It builds up quite fast, and people don't realize it. That's why they spend, because they think the money can't grow. So they just go to the bar, they go to anywhere to get rid of it. But at the end of the day, if you put away 50, 100, it just keeps adding up. And next thing you know, you got a whole bucket of money, So it's important that people learn that strategy in itself. It has nothing to do with stocks other than the fact that money could go to investments. And investments grow. So
absolutely. So now you have your community is like well over 400 people, right? Like you're engineering the 500.
Yeah, it's basically in that range always. Like I said, we have people that come and go based on personal stuff, but that's where we've been basically.
You see, and the cool thing about it is, like, I think there's just so much information in there, and it's like so affordable too. It's like, what do you charge? Like $50 per month?
Yeah, $49 a month, or you can do the annual membership, which will get you 2 additional months for free.
Gotcha.
off the total.
So like, it
comes down to like $41 if you do the annual.
Yeah, it's $40, and then we spend more in Starbucks than that.
That's what I'm saying, and that's the thing too. Is like, you go out to one meal at McDonald's, and you get nothing for it. You get a bad meal, basically. So use your money for something that will make you money. It's a lot smarter choice.
Absolutely.
And plus, like I said, it's fun. Mm-hmm. I see the value in even just the conversation. I have members that literally don't trade.
And
they just love to be there. They like the idea of learning, and that's the important part for them. Not even just the daily trading, because everyone has different things. Some people trade a bunch per day. Some people do it a handful a month. Some do a handful a year. And it's just more they want to be in the community.
If you're an expert on any field or a successful entrepreneur who wants to be featured in our podcast,
I loved it.
Make sure you click the link below, fill out the application, tell us a little bit about yourself. If we're a good fit, somebody from our team will reach out to you.
What's up? What's up? Hey, what's up? What's up?
And you need to get ready to start inspiring our audience and become a part of the AbadAss Life podcast. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'm assuming that a large percentage of the people in there, they're just doing this kind of like as a side hustle, as a little extra way to make money. But there are also some like just traders that's right. All they do, and that's like their main income. That's their main thing, and they're like very advanced, and they are also sharing their expertise, their knowledge, whatever information that they have, right? So that's the cool thing about it. It's like, they're not just getting the picks from you or your suggestions, but they're also getting information from a handful of other day traders that's what they do for a living.
That's right. Yeah, actually, like I said earlier in the morning, they had at least 4 huge winners today. So if you woke up at 4, there was no way you lost. Everything posted was a big winner. So these guys are good. The thing about it is, if you look at charts, it's like poker. All these things kind of relate to each other. You do things over and over and over. You see it fast. And the same thing goes for these guys. I mean, I look at charts, 10 hours every day for years, just staring at charts. That's all I'm doing, other than the conversation and the posts themselves. So you start to see the same patterns, same things happening. And the same thing happened for the other traders. They see the patterns, and what they do is they care enough to say, hey, by the way, I'm seeing this. And that's helpful, because if I just hand you a phone and said, find me a stock, it's pretty hard to do. There's a lot of stocks to choose from. But if you have a bunch of people looking at a bunch of charts, it makes a big difference, when you can actually find something and timely find it, because, and that's why we always talk about, like, hey, it's almost, if you see something, say something, that phrase. It's meant for like terrorists and stuff. But this is in stocks, because if you see a chart that's great, I might not be looking at the chart. And then you say it, I pop up the chart, and I'm in.
There it is.
Yeah, as long as I'm in agreement. You don't necessarily have to go buy it, but if you look at the chart and you're like, hey, this is a chart I like. You just
actually answered to what was going to be my next question, because I was going to say, like, all right, let's get to the nitty gritty of things, because I heard when Sarah and I were talking about, right, she was like, oh, Jason, you've been doing this for a very long time, but now with FMP, it's been for about 3-4 years. And she was like, oh, he has a win rate or about 70% Yep. And I was like, okay, something's doesn't add up here to me, because I know that it's been, it's talked about, like, a lot of day traders don't have that, those percentages or those win rates. It's like, it's very hard to maintain a win rate that high, especially over time, I would say.
Yeah,
if over a few years, you have a 70% plus win rate, I think you're doing something like really right. And I was going to say, like, what was your secret? What did you do? But what you were saying before is like, I've been looking at charts for over 10 years. Like, there is the secret, it just like, it's like the secret to life, man. There's like realizing that there's no shortcut is the only shortcut. Like, it's like you have to put in the work. You have to, like, obviously now there's smarter ways, because like you had to do it and put your 10,000 hours. But the cool thing is now you're offering that to, all your community, so that people, maybe it's not necessarily a shortcut, but it's a much more efficient way for them to learn, because they have somebody guiding them, giving them like all the tips, the tricks, and all that stuff. That's why communities are so good, man. I think like the internet in itself has changed the way we do things because of that. It's connected more and more people together. And now things are like so much easier in a way.
Yeah, actually, even myself, I don't just find everything myself. I'll come on. We have a member. Actually, a great story was the community itself. Yeah, I had the idea, but I started on Patreon. And what it would be on Patreon, it was just my play. There was no community. There was no conversation. It was meant to be a community, but you couldn't talk. And then I had a member, Tony D. He signed up and he said, "Why aren't you on Discord? You could have more interactions. It's going to be faster." And he's there today, and he's an elite member. He posts every morning, and I'll go on his list, and that's how I get some of my ideas. Other members get those ideas. They go through the list, so it's working together to find this stuff. It's not just, hey, I found it. It could be someone else posted. I looked at it, and then I came up with the play. So we all work together basically to have the ideas, and the elite member alerts from him in particular. That's a great way to start your day at 4 a.m. And this is what I want to look at. He's narrowing it down for you, and it makes a big difference. And like I said, I use it personally.
That's really cool, man. I think like also, the fact that it's not just all business, that you guys are having fun, you guys are becoming friends. There's like, I'm sure there's a bunch of friendships that have flourished from just being there. We were just talking backstage of how, you have all these big family now. And like whenever you guys did the event last year in Vegas and you guys did your meetup, there was like so many people there. You have people that are recognizing you in Puerto Rico now randomly that just happened to be
That was
you.
very interesting. Yeah, that was very interesting. I didn't expect that one, of course, but the event, it was a lot of fun. We had different members, and what's cool is, online people are usually different people, but for the most part, everyone was who they were. And, it was moments after we met, everyone's joking, having a good time. And how personalities are. That's not usually how it is. And I think it's something about the interactions in the community are so real that when we met in person, it felt the same, which is, it really says something about the community too. That it's not just a bunch of fake people and then you meet them and they're completely different.
Yeah.
And a lot of the same members will going to return for the next event in October. So that'll be fun.
I'm going to be there again. Too.
Yeah.
Man, that'll be fun.
Be a blast, yeah.
I definitely want to, I look forward to get to meet all of them and just talk a little bit more, because I definitely want to learn more myself. I mean, for a while, I kind of like postponed it just because I do have a ton on my plate. And it's like, I know when I like want to learn something, I give it 100%. And then it's like, I allocate a bunch of time into it. And right now, I wish, days had like 30 hours just because there's just so much to do, but it's definitely a priority for me. So like, I'm really happy we're, getting closer and working together and just doing a bunch of things that are going to help not only the audience or people that are wanting to, find that one thing for them that they want to call their side hustle, or potentially, if they take it really serious, maybe make their career, maybe they'll be able to do supplement their income at some point and like quit their job that they hate. Know,
I've had members do that. And another thing that is a good thing to do is if you have children. A lot of people, almost people aren't even teaching kids anything about money, and schools don't do it. Nobody does it. And if you got your child involved in investing early, that doesn't mean that you have to give them an account to, trade a bunch of money. It's about learning and being ready for when they are, 18 years old and have their own money. I can imagine how helpful that would be to so many young people to have that versus, who knows? People waste their money on everything. Get them something that's going to grow their future.
Absolutely. I actually have to give a shout out to my nephew, Sebastian, because he's gotten into futures and like he's, learning a little bit about stocks and all kinds of things now. But, just the fact that he's doing that, he's blown up a bunch of accounts, but he's also, I think he was here a couple of weeks ago. He was visiting me, and he showed me. He was like, "Theo, I'm so happy. Like last month was a profitable month. He made like $5,000. Wow,
that's nice, yeah.
And I was like, "Wow, keep it up. Let's go. Like it doesn't matter how many accounts you blow or whatever you do, just keep going because, like, he's 18. Right. He's right about to graduate high school. Like that's." I'm so proud of him. Just,
Of course, yeah.
it's like that's the route I want him to go on. Like, I don't want him to go and just find a retail job. Not that there's anything wrong with
Right.
that, but it's just like the vehicle that you are
It
choosing.
sticks you in
right?
one lane forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure. I think like being able to share this with kids, for them to start like getting interested into this, making it in a fun way so that they see the reward. Because like there's something to say about like how rewarding it feels when you do something right and then boop, you earned
That's
what
right.
what you're winning. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just a long-term thing too. Because imagine if someone had got you into stocks. You take anyone my age, and you just held the stocks from 18 years old. Let's say you had a portfolio that you held.
Yeah.
You're definitely rich now. I mean, there's no way around it. No one couldn't be. So nothing's going to change. Stock market is going to go up. 18 years from now, it's going to be way higher than it is now. We know this already. So you want to get in. You want to be involved. And it would be unfortunate to learn about it when you're 40 instead of when you're 18, when it's right there in your face. You have it's different now. It's all on your phone.
Yeah.
So why not take advantage,
It's so accessible, yeah, for sure. I think like there's never been easier to be successful in almost any industry. The problem is also like there's never been easier to get distracted because there's just so much information, and then just so many distractions out there that it's like there's both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
And it's just like what you give your focus and your attention to is what's going to determine like the path that you're going to go down. It's like
I think our community does something for that too,
Mhm.
because I feel like you're constantly driven to come see your friends,
Yeah.
and then you're constantly driven to get money and improve your skills. So it's kind of like it's this friend that's your buddy versus your friend that's hey, go watch TV. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think it helps a lot.
1,000%. A lot of times I think we're not like so disciplined as about like letting ourselves down. So like for me, for example, like if I say like, okay, I want to do this and nobody else knows about it. Sometimes, I'll go through with it, but sometimes I won't. And then nobody else knows. And it's just like, okay, whatever. I let
Right.
myself down. I'll try again. But it's kind of like that personal trainer concept where it's like, if it's the gym, right? And you're like, okay, today I may not go.
Yeah.
But if you have a personal trainer, now you're spending some of your resources because you're paying the guy. And not only that, but you don't want to let that person down too.
Yeah.
And then you put that on steroids, and now you have like a workout group. There's like 8 other people that are keeping you accountable, 10 other people, whatever. It's like you don't want to let all of them down.
Yeah.
So it just like that sense of community is definitely powerful, and definitely helps you stay the right track.
Yeah, and that's actually brought me to something I just thought of is, I have conversations because we have members across the world. It's not just in the United States. So I have conversations pretty much 24 hours a day, and people will make a mistake, and sometimes they'll ask after, which is fine. I'd rather have someone message before, but
Mhm.
you can learn that way, and it's nice because I'm almost there, almost like you say, like a gym trainer. I'm punching in the stomach. Let's not do that again. Let's move on.
Yeah.
We know what we did wrong. Let's fix it. The gym's the same thing. It's just repetition and showing up. And
Mhm.
learning. So I think that's a really helpful thing because I've talked to other people. They've tried another community, and there's no real interaction with the guy who's supposed to tell you how to do it. It's almost like, hey, come here. Okay, thank you. Not with us. I'm spending my day talking to people and conversating with what happened. What did you do wrong? What did you do right? I want to hear about it. So
Yeah.
I think that's a huge difference. Every person I've spoke through the years now, they've never had the interaction. And I usually message back fast. Most people will talk to me and they go, do you eat? Do you sleep? What are you doing? I go, I do, but I try to just respond, and then we go from there.
No, I can attest to that for sure. You're definitely very devoted to the community. I think that's one of the reasons, if not the key reason as to why, you've grown the community from 0 to like 500 members in like under 3 years or 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So no, like I definitely recommend everybody out there to check it out to see if that's something that they want to do. Not everything is for everybody. What would you say to the people out there that are looking for a side hustle, that want to find a way to make some extra money, or to find that one thing that is going to help them, like quit their job or whatnot? What, in your opinion, what are the characteristics that they have to have in order to be successful at this, or what are the traits that they have to be naturals at this per
It's
se?
it's interesting because a lot of it's really basic. If you want to start getting ahead of it, it's just feel happy saving versus spending. My dad always taught me that. I remember actually when I paid off the house that I'm in, I had money from when I was a kid, literally just in a box,
Oh wow.
that because I just kept saving it, and that's what you want to get to. You want to get to a point where you have more joy keeping money versus getting rid of it. And I always do. I've always felt that way. I'm like, it's like this goal. It's just like you said with the gym. You're trying to get in shape. You're trying to get your best.
Mhm.
Money's the same way. Once you get X amount of money, it really doesn't matter too much.
Yeah.
It's more about the achievement of, hey, I kept it going. And I think saving money, and then from there investing money, because if your money is in a box, it doesn't do anything. So that wasn't all my money, of course,
Mhm.
but it was I couldn't get rid of that money for some reason. It was because I had it as a kid. I couldn't get rid of that money until it was like the most meaningful thing ever. Actually, my dad, I remember he came and talked to me. He says, "Hey, I'm thinking, how about we pay off the house?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "Well, give me this amount of money." And I said, "Okay." And I gave it to him. And then the very next day he came back and he goes, "Hey, I need X amount of money more." And I go, "Hey, hold on now. What's going on here?" But he had mixed it up a little bit. But we ended up paying off. It was a great thing. And it just shows you, like, that was as a kid. That money went towards my eventual house that I'm in. So how important was that? I mean, even as a kid, I was doing something for my future. Everyone's got that ability, but you got to change your habit. Actually, Sarah, she was a spender.
Mhm.
Before she met me, she loved spending. She probably still loved spending even when she was with me. But I've seen her habits change
You have to
so
teach her
much.
some of the saving a little more too, because she has my company credit card.
Yeah, I believe it. So yeah, no, she's getting better with saving, and I'm really proud of it because it wasn't her natural. Everyone's got their own. Certain people have different behaviors. Some people really like to spend. Some people really like to save, but you can change it. And now she's getting into that saving habit. And we use apps that are kind of funny. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of Ibotta, but these apps you can scan. When you're buying stuff, and I've saved thousands of dollars off these apps. So just little things like that. Imagine, let's say you weren't in the stock group. If you did that, now you'd have money to invest and get in the stock group, and you were going to a grocery store anyways. So little things like that make a big difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, so basically, like, if the main constraint for them to get in was money,
Yeah.
it just basically was like there's no excuse. There's plenty of ways to save money, and you don't need a lot of money to get started. I mean, hell, you can even start with like paper trades, right? And like just like fake trades. I mean, not fake trade, but I don't know a ton of.
You could, but honestly, I really feel like there's more value to a normal person. For instance, if you do free poker.
Mhm. I
It's
couldn't do
different.
free
Yeah,
poker
it's
to save
different.
my life.
So,
Yes.
and
I don't even pay enough, especially if we're playing low enough stakes.
Yeah.
Like I just do it for fun, and I'm not trying to be the grinder or because sometimes too is like when you do something, and this does not apply for stacks or anything, but it definitely does for poker because it's more like a game. When you do something that you love as work,
Right.
you take some of the fun out of it. So I did it for years. For a few years, that's all I did, probably 40 hours a week. And I had to be more disciplined. I had to not do the gambling thing or like the fun thing just because I knew that in the end, it was just minus EB, so not that I don't do it like, full time, like I can have my fun and not feel guilty about it because it's just like, okay, we're playing low enough stakes where it's like, there we go. There it is. But I think I get what you're saying. It's like you're not gonna like take it as serious.
Yeah, I think with the paper trading, it might distort you a little bit. So I usually tell people like, you could do like the main paper trading I would do is if you were trying to do like options and you had no idea how it even works. Well, maybe do paper trading because then it's, you have to learn it first. But as far as like learning to trade, I wouldn't do paper trading because there's that overconfidence level, because when it's not real money, you
Yeah.
win all the time. It's, you can go all in and here I double my money. It's fake. So put $100, learn, and then go up and down on the $100. And then if you get that to 200 and then 400, now you're on the path to actually really trade, and get going. But paper trading, I've seen it used okay, but for the most part, I've seen it used incorrectly, where it's like they just went all in, and now they think I'm just going to do that style
in real
trading.
life.
Yeah, and it's just not the way it's going to work.
Just give you a false reality of.
Yeah, exactly. So I do small accounts. If that's what you have, start with that, and there's no harm in that because you should be learning before you're trading, anyways.
So just basically start with the means that you have, right? And like not having enough money is not an excuse, because you can start with as low as $100, right? And then just what do you think is something else that you've seen in your most successful members? Like the consistency, maybe the putting a set amount of time into learning, like just having a plan of like, okay, at a certain time, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to learn about this. Like, have you seen some of that in like your most successful, like your success stories within your community?
It's basically all of that. So the people that do the best, it matters to them, and they have the discipline, they're following strategies, and they won't alter it, and they're more involved. If the people who don't do as well will usually just kind of do what they were doing before they came, which is why they came. So it really never made any sense. So if you change your habits, you change your results, and you see it in the community all the time, at least what I've seen. And the people that kind of turn it into a job, that's rare that you can accomplish that. And we have it. We've had people that do it, but that would be that's the high end goal. That's you turned into an NBA player, you know what I mean, in the league. Most people, I think what you want to do is, hey, this covers my car payment. This covers my trips for the year. Because if you do that, because in my opinion, even when you start a business, when I started a video game store, I still did other things, because what if I don't make money this month with the video game store? Same thing for stocks. If you put that much pressure on you, you have to be so consistent to put that level of pressure that this is my pay my bills money. So I like it better to keep your career or your job, and then this is the bonus money on the side.
Agree.
And, I think you do better too, because think of anything you do in life, put more stress on yourself, you probably won't perform as well as you did before the stress.
I think that there are some people that, and this is a very rare breed, that like just thrive on pressure, right? There are some of those where it's like, okay, I have no plan B. Like there is no diversification. Like if this doesn't work, I'm screwed. So because of that reason, they go like all out psycho and put 200% of themselves into making that thing work. But the reality is like, not everybody is created the same. Not everybody has the same mentality, the same thought process. And I do agree that majority of people, like, it's good to give yourself more outs, right? Like give yourself more chances. So diversify what you can, and don't put all your eggs in one basket. Especially if it's something new to you, something that you haven't mastered yet.
I would say that the people who've made the most money are what you just described, because they're willing to put it all on the line. They have work, they spend a lot of time, but their risk tolerance is very high. And those people will make the most money, I guess you could say. But I'm the opposite kind of trader. My thing
You're
is
very conservative.
Yeah. I live life that way. I trade stocks that way. And I think anyone who's coming to a community, I try to make them more like me, only because I know that their chance of losing goes down dramatically. And so if your losing goes down, chances to go lose, you're probably going to win. That's just the way it is. Now, you're not going to necessarily be able to quit your job. So that's where you have to decide, are you good enough to do what you said. Do you have it in you
Yeah.
to be beyond what I have? I don't have that risk tolerance. I just don't. You see me play poker, you probably raise on me if I have aces. I fold,
Trying
I
to
don't
kick you
know.
off the table. It's like, hey, is Jay still here?
Yeah. So I fold 100 hands, but that's just like you said. Everyone's different. And I think safety in stocks is actually a smart way. And then from there, you learn: do you have the rest where you can go a little bit, more risky?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like it's a rule of thumb, like the newer you add to something, the more careful you have to be, right? The more cautious you have to be. And there's like something to be said also, or an argument to be made that like once you get really good at something, like sometimes you could become like overconfident too and start making mistakes. That happens a lot in poker too. Like in other industries, but in poker, like 90% of players, they just think that they're like so much better than what they actually are, and they're not self-aware. And what happens is that they fall on their face once they get into different games, or like the games are tougher, or it's not like poker is not the same that it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like people are getting better, right? So and it's just funny to see is like self-awareness is a real thing, man. It's like so important to have, whether it's business, whether it's like your personal situation, or whatever your weaknesses or your strengths are. Like if you're aware of those, like it's so much easier to be able to maximize your strengths and then work on your weaknesses, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point, because one thing that I can't do is I can't know everyone's own risk tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to use the strategy, but you also have to know yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself. And overconfidence, you're right. I've had people, and my earnings pick is notorious for this because it wins so often, and what I pick is very good companies. So you almost can't lose on it long term. You might not win that day, but people get so confident that they're like, these can't lose. And I have to come in and go,
and then just shove the farm.
Yeah. And then what the worst part about it is usually when that's said, it's like everything, like, you see a basketball game. This guy hasn't missed a free throw. The announcer will say, he hasn't missed a free throw in years. And he misses right then.
Mm-hmm.
Typically it happens just by chance. Then there you pick misses that day. But you don't want to ever be overconfident. You just want to be the same. You want every day. I always say, like, you have a trade, you like the chart, right? You should buy the same amount each time, because when you get confident, you're like, I like the chart and I keep winning, that's the one that loses. So just keep doing the same thing and it's just going to grow. It's like saving the money. It's the same process. Save your $20, save your $20. It just keeps growing.
Yeah.
But don't get so confident that you just push it all,
Yeah, I've taken like all these right steps, and then it only takes one bad step to lose it all.
Seen
right?
it all the time.
Yep.
And I talk as many people down from it. I have one past member. They unfortunately they aren't in the community. I couldn't talk them down. This story is insane. He had a stock. He had $100 and something thousand in the stock. And I saw the stock. I said, "Get out immediately." He was up to $200,000. I said, "You've made a fortune. Sell." And he said, "No, this thing's going to 400." I said, "I don't know what it's going to. Sell." Because the thing is, it wasn't Amazon. It was just a company that's probably had 5 people in it, and he got lucky. He put a fortune in. He got lucky. He caught a run. He lost money on that trade. And that was it. He was out of the stock market. And then it was a perfect example. This guy had everything go his way, and he just couldn't get out of his own way because he was so overconfident because it went his way.
Yeah.
And ended up losing money. I don't know. It made us sick, honestly. A couple of the members because we care. We literally begged him to sell. But at the end of the day, you click the buttons, right? So
hey, there's so many of those stories where like people just cannot help themselves, for whatever patterns that they're just so embedded in them. Like I have a really good friend of mine. His friend went like really big in Dogecoin, right? And he I think he put like 50K in it. He got it all the way up to like 750. Yeah, 750,000. That's more than a lot of people making a lot of in a long time. And he was like, "Oh, this is gonna go to the moon. It's gonna go to the moon." We're all telling him just cash out $500,000.
Yep.
Leave the other 250 there. Like, just take out $500,000. Like, just do that.
Yep.
No, it's gonna go to the moon. Long story short, he ended up losing the whole thing. Like everything went pretty much to zero. And Yeah, there's like so many stories like that.
It was interesting. He had you guys doing kind of what the community does. We're trying to help make sure money is taken. At least take your profits. And if, like you said, if he'd taken half, he couldn't lose.
Yeah.
He could have just gave it all back, and it didn't matter. That's the same thing in stocks.
And the saddest thing is like on those situations, right? Because if you're a billionaire and that doesn't really matter to you, then whatever. Like it's like, okay, I'm just gonna ride the thrill of like how much can I win, and if I lose $1 million, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who can actually benefit a bunch from that money, or maybe start something or a business or invest it again in something more safer or whatever, but because you couldn't get out of your own ways, that opportunity went away. It's tougher to see. You know?
Brutal. That's brutal to see. And like I said, I hate. That's why I will talk anyone. I will go to the point where I'm messaging them so much that I'll say, if I'm bothering you, you got to let me know, because I'm going to keep on coming at you, trying to make sure you protect yourself. So, and I think that's part of what people are there for too, because again, the other places, they're not on your side. I'm the guy on your shoulder telling you, take the money and let's get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, I think that helps a lot to have that on your side.
So one quick advice for the people out there, like what I like, step number 1, step 2, step 3 to get in, if they want to go and like visit your site or you follow you, where can they follow you? Where can they get to know a little bit more about you?
Well, if you want to follow us, you just go to Google and follow my predictions, and the whole thing will be us. Everything on there is going to be us. So if you just want the social media, that will get you all the social media. If you want to sign up, of course, you go to followmypredictions.com. It'll bring you to the website, and then from there you can choose monthly or annual. And then I'll message you right when you join for setup, and then you'll be in the Discord community.
All the onboarding
it literally, the second that you join, you get a link, and then we go over the setup and all the strategies and everything from there. Yeah.
And I wanted to show this here. I'm a proud member of FMP, and he brought me a shirt. I think this is the first FMP shirt that I have. Right?
Yeah, and actually the design is part...
actually, you know what? I'm going to put this right
Part of the design was actually so I drew it up on paper, then I gave it to you, and your team created like the first original outline of that. And then one of our members, Reapers, he did his own take on it as well. And that's how we came to it. So it's been several people came into that to make that, and you were one of them.
Yeah. I'm happy that we were able to help you.
Yeah, it was cool because I remember, I don't know if you remember, but I just drew out literally a sketch on a paper and sent it to you. And then you guys came up with the really nice version of it.
I think it's like, you know, like when it comes to logos, people just overcomplicate them too much, and then they become like really hard to translate to gear, hats, and all kind of different, like, you know, clothing. So I like logos that are like very straight to the point, simple, concise, and they deliver the message, which is we're going up.
Yeah. And what's interesting about these shirts, we wear them in the airport, stuff like that. Everybody always asks about it. So it says it without saying, because Follow My Predictions could mean anything.
Yeah.
But the actual logo, everyone relates it to stocks. So it works for what its job is. And I love it. I love what you came up with on it. And I remember just drawing out in the car. I'm glad it came out so well.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk to us a little bit more. I really think that, you know, educating people more on this, especially kids and, you know, young adults, could definitely make an impact and a difference in their lives. So thanks a lot for coming in here and giving us some of your knowledge. And to everybody out there, if you guys are interested in this, if you guys want to follow them, remember, follow my predictions on Facebook, follow my predictions on Instagram. Pretty sure there's a TikTok in there. And followmypredictions.com if you want to go and join their community. And until then, continue living your own badass life.